So you'll do the quiz like you did with Chapter 1. It'll be a take-home exam. So if you guys want to do that with your popsicle pair, you're welcome to, or just do it solo. I don't care either way. If you do it with your popsicle pair, please let me know. We'll have 15 minutes versus 10 minutes because people might be doing it individually. As far as Excel homework, I've extended out both Excel 3 Addendum and Excel 3 Grader. So two things. One, they've been separated, and two, they've been extended. Okay? So you guys will see that in the calendar. Okay, so hopefully that will make sure everybody gets them in and on time. Also, Club IT today, this room, 4 to 5:30. So I think Stevie is going to show up. Anybody else showing up to Club IT today?
I might.
Anybody else? Gislani, are you going to be able to come in, Gislani, or just remotely? Gislani, will you be able to come in person, or are you going to be remote?
I'll be just zooming if you don't mind.
Just zooming, yeah, okay. It'd be good one day if you showed up, but understand, I'd rather have you Zoom than not even at all, but yeah, I get it.
When is that?
Okay.
Sunday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
I don't know. So when do you guys want to have it due?
The day of the final.
I love Danielle. I like your personality, Danielle. So it has to be due. So let's say it's due by Sunday. Yeah, we'll say it's due by Sunday. So let's take a look. So I just updated like all the classes this morning. So let's take a look. So it used to be that they are both due, I think, on Sunday. Or no, I think one was due or
Today?
The addendum. Well, yours is different, Gislani, because your due dates are different than this class's due dates.
Okay.
Yeah. So for Excel 3, but that's good that you know it's due today. Good. So the Excel 3 addendum, I think, was due tomorrow, but I extended that out to Sunday. This is a quickie. This should only take you guys like maybe, we might have to watch the video, but we'll go over in class today. It should take most people literally probably 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm hoping people get inspired from that and start the grader early. This grader is kind of tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anybody's done that grader, it's kind of, so probably the two hardest things is the VLOOKUP. We're going to cover that in the addendum. And then the other one is a nested formula. We covered that. We'll cover that potentially today or probably more than likely on the 28th.
Is this one going to be like the simulator where you have to put in all the
No, it's
equals?
Yeah.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I couldn't do 14.
So what was it?
There's just like so much, like, I had to keep clicking
I won't lie,
on the
this is kind of hard.
Yeah.
and just like remember the
It's kind of hard.
Well, okay, so the book, hold on a second, guys. The book suggests everybody just typing things in. Don't type things in. Just use the wizards. So it's much easier to use the wizards because most of the typing is typed in for you if you use the wizards. So use the wizards. However, comma, if there are nested formulas, you can do the wizard for part of it, but for like, if you have to do like an if statement that has like an or an and, then what you have to do is you actually have to type that nested formula in, but everything else is in the wizard. And we'll cover that on probably this.
addendum thing on the IT
The addendum is actually in Learning Modules, Excel, Chapter 3, Workshop 3. But that's me. That's a Cassoni product. So that's not in my IT lab. That's something I created. Yeah. All right. So other thoughts, other questions? Okay. Cool. You get a sticker, Kelly. Where's the stickers at? Make sure Kelly gets a sticker. You guys didn't? Yeah, you did. Didn't they go that way?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Like, I try to track where they're going. All right, cool. So anything else? Everybody's good. All right, so let's get started. Let's continue on our trek of Chapter 4. And it was beastly, right? Pretty much every slide had a star in there. So if you ever did flashcards, this might be that chapter. All right, so we're recording. All right, So let's talk about, so we ended up on chapter 20 of talking about own versus license. So I think we came to the conclusion that we typically do not own the software. What we do is we buy the right for the license, and that license, thank you, Coach, that license will say things that we can do, like you could put it on 1 or 2 or 3 computers if it's Microsoft Office, or if it's iTunes, it might say you can have this song on 5 devices. Okay, so that kind of gives us stipulations. We talk about site license, like Maricosta has a site license with Microsoft that we can, as many computers as we buy, we can put Office and Windows 7 or Windows 10 on them because we pay them probably like some huge amount of number, like $40,000 or $50,000 a year, and they say, all right, you guys are good. Okay, then we talked about open source like Linux, where that's free, and a lot of times you can even get the code and change it and make your own Linux. So that's why you see like there's probably about like 300 or 400 or 500 forms of Linux floating out there in the world, because everybody can get it, you can change it, and you can make it your Linux. You know, you can make it rainy day Linux, whatever. So let's talk now about the different categories of these applications. So we're gonna see that we have 3: horizontal, vertical, and one of a kind. So horizontal means kind of like what? Very wide. So this is something, a product that could go across like all industries, and it doesn't matter. So what might be an example of a horizontal market application? Looking over to the right there. What do you guys think?
Can you repeat the Microsoft Office?
Microsoft Office, right? So it doesn't matter if I'm in the car industry or education industry. Microsoft Office is Microsoft Office. It suits everybody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be tailored. So this would be considered horizontal. It's wide, it goes across everybody. Okay? How many people work in the food and beverage industry here? Usually a fair amount. Okay? So when you guys take an order, do you just do it on paper, or how do you take your orders?
POS. Point of sale.
POS, right? And what is that POS? A lot of times in your, bless you. Okay, so a lot of times it's micros, right? So that is set up for the food and beverage industry. We don't have a point of sale micros system in this classroom because that's vertical for that industry.
Micros is a lot more complicated to use than POS.
Yeah. But those are kind of like things, but they're, the big thing is that they're vertical for an industry, right? Okay, so like POS and micros, that's kind of like, right, this is for the food and beverage industry. Okay, so does that make sense? And then we have one-of-a-kind applications, like the IRS, the boogeyman that takes our money or gives us money. They usually take my money in April. So that's a one-of-a-kind. So there is no IRS anywhere else here. So that would be a one-of-a-kind, specific, unique need. So those are the 3 different categories. So as we look at this chart then, these horizontal applications are off the shelf. So if somebody doesn't get Microsoft Office and say, I'm going to go tailor that, they're just like, yeah, this is Microsoft Office, it is what it is. Okay? What happens a lot of times on vertical applications is they're either off the shelf or they're off the shelf, or many times they're off the shelf and customized. So if you're a small restaurant, do you have the ability to tell Micros, hey, go build a custom module for us? Probably not. What about if you're like a big chain, like if you were, like what's some big chains out there you guys work at? McDonald's, I don't think McDonald's has Micros, but probably like a sit-down restaurant.
Like Chili's?
Yeah.
Like Chili's probably, or there's that whole family. There's like Chili's, I think, Chili's and Outback and Carrabba's, and they get the gift cards for my mother-in-law all the time. Okay, so if you're those guys, and if you're that big, you could say, you know, we want to have a tailored, customized solution just for our restaurant chains. If you own hundreds of restaurants, and you're buying all these Micros versions, and they're like, hey, go make this for us. So it's off the shelf and customized, whether it's Micros customizing it for them, or possibly they have their own IT shop that will get it and customize it to this thing called an API, or an application program interface. Okay. So in Java, they will create all these like application program interfaces. Okay. And then we have these one-of-a-kind applications that are custom developed. Okay, these could either be really great or really bad usually. So it could be great because it's customized for you. The only problem is if they screw up, how much power do you have if you contracted it out and they met the requirements? It's going to be like, hey, you know, we met your requirements. So usually it's good, but it can be bad too. All right. So let's talk about thin clients versus thick clients then. What do we mean by that? Thin client versus thick clients. Does anybody know? What do you guys think? Anybody? I'm sorry?
Nothing.
Nothing? Tucker, what do you think? Thin client versus thick client.
Thin client, like something you find on a website and click, it's a web application.
Yeah, exactly. So thin clients would be like a web browser, doesn't require installation. So anybody use Google Docs in here in the class? So usually a lot of students use Google Docs. Okay. Or a thick client is something that has to be installed, like Microsoft Office. So which one has more capability, Google Docs or Microsoft Word? Microsoft. As far as like formatting and things like that, Microsoft Word kills it. It kills it. So yeah, take my 110 class and we'll see. We'll see like the table of contents and everything else. But yeah, so a lot of times. So the cool thing about these thin clients is that it doesn't have to be installed anywhere. So from you have to go touch a computer perspective, it's really convenient. So every semester, what happens? You come in to Miracosta, and is Blackboard the same, or Blackboard could be different, right? But what happens if Facebook pushes out a change? Like, I don't like it. Like, all right, well, you're stuck with it. They didn't ask you. It just gets installed. You refresh, you sign in and sign out, and boom, you've got brand new software. So from that perspective, thin clients are very convenient. Okay? Thick clients, things like Microsoft Office, has to be installed on every machine. So like next year, hopefully when we go from Office 2013 to Office 2016, then every machine is going to have Office 2016 installed. I mean, granted, we could push the software out, but it's still something that has to be done versus a thin client where you just like log in, log out, and it's done. But on the thick clients, typically it's much more feature rich. So Microsoft Word has a lot more features than Google Docs. However, Google Docs does have some features like collaboration that's much nicer than Microsoft Word. Okay, so it does have some features because it is web, and you see Microsoft Office 365, their cloud version, trying to get into that because they see that, oh wow, we're losing market share to Google Docs because people want to collaborate. Okay. Thoughts, questions? Everybody's tracking. Everybody's good. Cool. All right. So we've had a discussion about open source. So does that mean it's not good if it's open source, or no? Or do we use some open source products every day in our lives? Okay, has anybody used OpenOffice before? Probably not. What about Firefox? Okay, that's a really good product, right? Okay, so that's a good product. MySQL, does anybody work at a place where they're using MySQL as a database? So, really good product. We'll see that in Chapter 5. The most popular web server out there is Apache, open source and free. So Ubuntu is kind of like Windows, but that's a Linux client system. Android, we use that on our cell phones. Okay, Cassandra, we'll talk about NoSQL databases in the next chapter, Chapter 5. And then there's this whole thing called Hadoop for big data and cloud technology, where it goes and finds all this data out there for us. Okay? So what happens on this open source end is you can either get the binaries, or you can pull the open source code if you want, all the code, and then you can make changes and compile it and make it your own. Okay, so you can tailor it to whatever you want. So that's what happens a lot of times now with the Navy at Ch4, is they'll get the Linux, they'll put everything they want in there, and they'll compile it so they can search everything for viruses, make sure there's nothing stuck in there that they don't expect. They can compile it and they have a clean version of something. Okay, so there are some advantages actually. Okay, so this is like some people will say, it used to be that open source was low. They said, no way, everybody's creating this, it's not good. But what they found out in industry is that, hey, if you have a lot of people looking at this, your chances of actually having viruses can be less, because if somebody sees it, it's going to spread like wildfire, saying, hey, that thing has a virus in there, because everybody can see the source code. So it used to be that people thought it was bad, but now there's actually a lot of people that think it's good and it's even better. Okay? We talked about before, even though it's free and it's open source, that doesn't cost anything, but it doesn't have a licensing fee, but typically you'll have a support fee. So somebody like Red Hat, does anybody know what Red Hat does? Has anybody heard of Red Hat Linux?
Yes.
So it's like this enterprise Linux. So they're probably the most prolific and popular Linux operating system for businesses. And they kind of have a proprietary open source approach. They'll give you the code, but if you want to get it, you have to buy their support. So even though the Linux is free, they charge $500 a year to support the machine. Yep. All right, so that was kind of like the pros and cons on this next slide. Anyways, as far as credible or not credible, we said more secure, less secure. Initially, it was thought of as being less secure, but nowadays most people, including myself, think that it's actually more secure, because you can actually see the source code. You can do like these scan analyzers and look at if there's any buffer overflows, all the things that the hackers go hit, you can go look at because you have the source code. Okay, so I keep saying this word, source code, source code, source code, right? Can we read source code? What do you think? As humans, can we read source code?
No.
How many people think we can read it? How many people think we can't read it? Okay, so who has to build it? Does this stuff just get built by itself, this computer code, or who builds it?
Built by people.
It's built by people, right? Smart. No, you guys are, everybody in this room could be a coder. You guys are all smart people in this room. All my students are smart. Okay, so let's look at this. So here's a source code example right here. So on here on the left, this is actually source code. So can you guys read this? Yeah, a person has to do that, and then you compile it. And then once it's compiled on the right, can you read that? No. Can't read that. So that you can't read. But everybody in here can do this. So you can see things like those green slashes are comments, and these things are all methods right here. So private void. Here's some arguments that are going into our methods. Here's like a little loop right here. Here's some method calls. So we can see that and do that. So that's what happens. In the room next door, the computer science people will build things, but they'll write their code in source code, then it gets compiled, and then it starts looking like this. And this is actually Microsoft Word. I mean, it has many, many lines, but that's the part of Microsoft Word, the compiled version. Okay. So can you read source code, true or false? As humans, can you guys read source code? So everybody say, humans can read source code. Humans can read source code. Okay? You can't read the right, or if you could read that, if you could read the right-hand side, I'm envious. Teach me. I can't. Okay? All right. So let's do a quick review, and we can jump into some Excel. We're actually going to do the homework really quick. When purchasing software, what's the difference between licensing, site license, and open source? Who wants to take that on? Anybody? Yeah.
Licensing, you're limited to a certain number of copies.
Certain number of copies, and there's stipulations in we didn't cover this, but in has anybody heard of the EULA before? The EULA? The end user license agreement, that will tell you exactly what you can do and how many copies you can have. Okay, good. Keep going, Leah.
Site license is a flat fee to use
Flat fee, we can use that. So Maricosta will work with Microsoft to get the fee for the anticipated number of machines we're going to have. They'll say, all right, do that with probably within a couple hundred, you're okay. But once you get to a couple thousand, you're going to say Microsoft's going to probably want more money. Okay. And then open source.
There's no license fee and you can get the code.
No license fee and get the code, right? So we can get the code and it'll look something like that on the left. Then we can do it, change it, then compile it to something on the right, because humans can read this, but computers can't. So our processors can't read this, but our CPU can read this, okay? So we have to do it from something that we can read and compile it so that something that our computer can read. So this is all like machine code stuff that breaks down into ones and zeros eventually, okay? Good, all right, excellent, Leah. We could just sticker for that. All right, who wants to take on the next one? What's the difference between horizontal? All right, Travis.
So horizontal is something like a Microsoft application that you can apply to many different industries.
Okay, so something like Microsoft Office, pretty flat. Okay, good.
Whereas vertical is something that applies to like Microsoft foods, with the food.
Okay, for like a certain industry. Okay, good.
And one of the things for like a specific business.
Okay, good. Awesome, good. All right. Who wants to take on advantages and disadvantages of thick clients? Anybody? So everybody raised their hand before, and then now everybody's down. What happened to thick client? All right, Corey.
Well, a thin client is more available, like it's like a web browser.
Okay, so it's a web browser report apps like Facebook and other things. Okay.
And the thick client is more like feature rich.
Feature rich, and do we have to install it or not install a thick client? Okay, so the big difference is, I want you guys to know, is thin client, you just get that from the web. So you just go to a website and you pull your application down like Facebook or whatever, Gmail, Facebook, things like that, okay? Versus a thick client that, like Microsoft Office, has to be installed, okay? And then a lot of times we say that the web isn't necessarily as feature rich, but the convenience of not having to install it everywhere outweighs that little bit extra that you get from the thick client. Okay, good. What's special about open source? What's special about open source?
We can read it.
Okay, you can read it, so you can get it and read it. What else can you do to it?
Oh, you can edit it.
You can change it and make it your own. You can make it Renee's Linux or something like that, or Renee's Firefox. Okay? And then, so across and right, and then take on the next one too, Renee. Is source code readable by humans? Okay, is it readable by machines? No. Is machine code readable by machines? What do you guys think?
Hopefully.
Okay, that's what I call it, machine code. Okay, and then is machine code readable by people?
No.
Teach me if you can. Okay, so this is source code and compiled code or machine code over here. So machine code can be read by machines, specifically the CPU. Okay? Cool. All right, so let's wrap up here, and let's take a look at homework 5 or 4. So we'll discard this, so we're going to go into Blackboard. And this is actually a pretty fun assignment. It used to be a harder one. I made it easier. This semester, I'm really trying to make things easy. Yeah, no, it's just pretty, from last one. Do you guys think this class is super hard or no, not too bad?
Not bad.
How much time is it taking you guys a week to do homework and stuff?
Like one assignment an hour.
Depends.
Yeah, okay. So what's the guide? So this is good. So what's the Carnegie guide? So this class, so I know sometimes people's like, oh my gosh, I spend so much time in this class. This class at every other college is typically they have a lab component to this thing. So if you took this at Palomar or Mesa, it's 5 or 6 hours that you spend in class versus only 2.5. Oh yes. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yeah, exactly. So it's 6 hours. I taught this class at Mesa. This is a 6-hour course. Okay, so you'd see me 6 hours a week.
Wow.
I know, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, you'd see me 6 hours a week. Okay, so if you look, so the way it breaks down then is for every unit you have of lecture unit, you should have 1 to 2 hours of homework. I mean, that's the Carnegie guide. So I don't think anybody in here spending more than 6 hours a week in doing this class? Probably 2 to 4, maybe. Okay. And what are you guys spending in your other classes and homework? I'm sorry? A lot compared to this one? So do you think this is average? Or is this more than average, less than average?
Average.
Average? All right, so I don't feel as bad. So I'm telling you guys, I tweaked this down. I took all the assignments. I started saying, all right, this one might be a little hard or a little too advanced, so let me dial back. So I spent the whole summer dialing back.
I think the only thing that was difficult about the homework that we had was just memorizing all those damn things that we had to put in there.
Memorizing all those damn things. What?
Like,
Oh yeah, no, guys. So once we get to Excel, let's talk about that. Don't type all the stuff in. Use the wizards. It's so much easier.
yeah, but when I was doing the practice, like, simulation thing or whatever, it would tell me what to do. And how to
Yeah, I know. That's kind of a shortfall of the simulation. So the simulation say type. So even though the simulation says type this out, do this, you can actually click the wizards in there. Even though it says type it out, you can actually click the wizards. Yeah. So no, it's good. Every once in a while, they're looking for you specifically to type it out, but I'd say like 90 to 95% of the times you can use the wizards instead of typing it all out. Yeah. So I wish Pearson would do that. That's a feedback item I have in the Pearson. All right. So let's quickly look at chapter 4, homework. So this should take you guys like 10 or 15 minutes. No, seriously, this is a quickie. It's a quickie. So if you look at this Excel, what I want you guys to do is appreciate the whole concept of virtualization and cloud. We'll talk more about cloud in chapter 6. But so this is what this is a comparison. This is a comparison if you're doing email, if you had your own like server for Microsoft Exchange versus doing like Microsoft Outlook 365. So here's the price of the server, like $10,000. So what I want you guys to do on this one is you'd have to like go get the extended price. So what's the extended price? So if the price is $97.95 and you bought one, what would be the extended price? $97.95. So how would you get that? You do what? You would say equals.
The two
Equals this times this. That, and you basically drag this down, right? But once you guys have to think about what you're dragging down in here. So all these other things were included in that server, and you have the Exchange server standard at $775, and these cows are client access licenses. So this is based on having 5 people in like a small business, okay? And then this server doesn't run itself. You actually have to have a system administrator. So if you say 4 hours a week, that's like 1/10 of an administrator's time. And let's say an administrator costs $50,000 a year. By the time you put that, if you're an employer, is that the only cost for one of your employees, or what else do you have to roll into there? Like benefits, sick time, and all that other stuff. So even though you're paying that person $50,000, that person's probably costing you at least $65,000 a year is what you have to pay for that person, okay? And if 1/10 of their time they're spending on this Exchange server doing backups and fixing things, that's $6,500 a year. So what's the total of all this? So if I wanted to, I could be like the Pearson dude and sell whatever, click, equals, sum, parentheses, blah, 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 blah. Or what else could I do? Or what else? So I could just do auto sum, right? So like, all right, I'm going to do auto sum. Do that. So I'm just going to grab all that and it did it for me. Bang. Okay?
Wait. Sorry, how'd you do that?
All right. So how did I do that? So everybody here. So Morgan's like, whoa, wait a second. What'd you do there? So at the end of the day, these wizards will put in what we type in there manually. So if you hit auto sum right here, look at that. Equals sum, and it automatically said, I'm guessing you want to add up to sell the range from D2 to D12, and you just hit enter and you're done. Or the other option is you could say equals SUM, open parentheses, D, da 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 da. So that's what I'm saying. On these simulations, use the wizards. Much easier to use the wizards.
Yeah, I'm just taking a lot of pictures on the phone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was like,
Yeah. So just do the wizards, guys. Do the wizards. Okay.
so auto-sum?
So just auto sum, and it does it. So that's $37,000. Okay. Does anybody know what Microsoft Office 365 is per month, roughly? I think it's like $14 or $15. So look that up. I want you guys to look that up. Let's say it's $13. Okay. And how many months are in a year? 12. And then over there on the left-hand side, we said 5 users, so we want to do a comparison. Okay, so we have to have 5 users. Then how are we going to get what this is going to cost us business for $13 a month per person for 12 months for 5 users? How do we get that number? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would just type it.
You can type it in, but I fat finger, I can't type well. Okay, so instead of doing that, I could do that times this times this. Does everybody get why we're doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the price is $13 per month per person. And for me as a person, I'm going to be there for 12 months out of the year. And if there's 5 users, that's $780 a year. And typically when we look at hardware, hardware is good for about 4 years until you have to rebuy the license again. Okay? So if we want to do a comparison then, if we have hardware on the left for 4 hours, or 4 years, how many years do we have to account for the 365 to make it even?
Times 4.
Times 4, right?
Yes.
Okay? So times 4, so it equals, so this is 4 years, because we're going to do a comparison for this versus that. Okay? So how do we get the total cost for 4 years for 5 people here?
Take the annual.
The annual.
Take the annual times the year. Oh my gosh. You mean in the cloud, this will cost $3,000? What does it cost if I do this, if I have it hosted myself? $37,000. But the bigger question is, as we start getting down here, what is the initial capital cost to set this up like month 1 if you had an Exchange server? How much would it cost you to set it up for the the first day you're using it?
Divide by 12.
I'm so confused on what you're asking.
Okay, so let's read the question. What is the initial capital required for this setup?
What? Wait.
All right, so let me do this. I gotta lock you guys' machines down because you guys are like trying to do it.
For which setup?
The initial.
For the initial setup. Okay?
It's 37,000.
Yeah.
So like,
Well, not 37,000 because let me see what's going on here.
The initial capital.
There you go. All right, so let's do this. Now I can. All right, so you guys are all locked down now. Now we can have a conversation.
I'm just like lost on how you got the 780 and the 3120. I'm understanding that you need to do
All right, so let's talk about. So let's talk about this. So in nuclear power school, we did these things called railroad tracks, like the most amazing thing in the world. Okay, so if we look at, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to compare if I bought this and hosted myself. So if I'm at a company, if I bought all this hardware to do email, that's one way I can do it. Another way I could do this is I could just do it in the cloud with virtualization and everything else. Okay, on the left is if we bought the equipment. Okay, so day 1, how much money would I have to spend to get this up and going if I'm on the left-hand side there, if I have it hosted? So I have to spend like $9,000 plus the Exchange license plus the client licenses in there. Okay, So I'd have to spend roughly, if I just do this right here, and look down the bottom right, how much do I have to spend down there? So everybody sees the sum?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd have to spend $11,000. I have to do $11,000 if I hosted this myself on day one. Okay? There, you guys see it now? Yeah. Okay? I'm just that good at math. No, just kidding. Okay? So, what we want to do, so that's one of your things right there. So, what's the initial capital required for this based on month one? So what's the initial capital required like month one? Well, you have to have $11,000. If you're a brand new business, do you have $11,000 laying around? Okay. Month one in the cloud will cost you how much for 5 users for 1 month?
$13.
$13 times 5. Okay, do you guys see that?
Yes.
How did you see how we got that? Anybody not see that? Okay, so month one, it's going to be $13 times 5. So I can spend $65 month one, or I can spend $11,000 month one. You're a brand new business. What do you guys want to do you think? You want to do the $65, okay? What happens if your business isn't successful and shuts down after 3 months? You're out how much? $195, okay? What happens if your company explodes and you need to add 100 people? And instead of, what do you do? So it's like, so you just add it, but we'll see in the cloud, I can go to Microsoft and say, I want to go from 5 people to 100 people, and it'll be up and going in like 30 minutes. As fast as I can type the people's names and I have it, as long as I have my credit card number. Okay? So this is all based on, they can do this because of the power of virtualization. They have all these data centers, and they can rapidly expand and contract. And we'll learn more about this in chapter 6 as well. We'll start talking to cloud. Okay? So, how do we get to 3120? Well, we have price per month is $13. That's not the real price. Go find a real price. I want you guys to do some work. Okay? And we said that, for 1 user is going to be based on that $13 times 12. So that's the annual cost, right, for a user. And then if we assume we have 5 users at each company, then the annual cost of $13 per month times 12 months times 5 users is $780. Okay? Corey.
What I want to know is how you were able to multiply them so quick without having to type them in.
Okay, so Corey wants to say, wait a second, you just did this and didn't have to type anything in, right? So, if I go right here, I'm going to create a formula. So now that we're in chapter 3, we're doing formulas and functions. This is going to, a function is going to have like a word in parentheses. A formula is going to just start out, both of them start off with equals. So in this one, we're not going to use a function, we're going to use a formula. So I'm going to say equals, and then I'm just going to click G2, and you'll see it popped up, the cell popped up there, G2 times H2 times I2. Okay, and I made 780.
You just use hub control.
No, just click them individually. Yep, this equals, click, times, click, times, click. Okay? So this has 1 year, but to make this an apples to apples comparison, we can't say, hey, this hardware is going to be here for 4 years and compare it to something where we only did 1 year, counted for 1 year. So how do we account for 4 years of this? So how do we account for, if the annual cost is 780, we can do what? 780 plus 780 plus 780 plus 780, or 780 times 4. So in this total right here, we did that. We said, take the annual amount, J2. Okay, so once you click on the formula bar, you'll see that J2 is blue, and it lights up the blue box. And then you see like the red, and that lights up the red box. Okay? What we just did there is we get 3120. Okay? So cool. So then the next thing is I want you guys to do too is then how many equivalent people would you have to have in a cloud to make this equivalent to the house cost, in-house cost?
Gotcha.
How would I do that?
that. It's very different.
So if I know it's $780, so if I know if so for that one, you have to do what? Price times month times years. So you have to do 13 times 12 times 4. That's like one person for 4 years. And then if you divide that by 37, so for one user per year, it's going to be equals $13 a month times 12 months, okay, times 4 years. So this is the amount of money it costs for one person to be on this system for 4 years, okay? Well, I don't multiply that by 5. If that's the cost for one person for 4 years, if I divided that by $37,000, it said equals 37,000 divided by this amount. That's going to be what? How many users I have?
59 total users, so you'd have to add 54 approximately.
Well, right. So what I wanted you guys to see here on this one is, what I want you guys to see is, hey, for the same amount for 5 people in the cloud with no capital, you can have how many people? 60. Okay, does everybody see that? Okay, so you got to be doing this for your final project too. That's why I also wanted to do this project. Okay, does everybody see that? Does it kind of make sense, sort of, kind of?
I'll figure it out.
Well, no, you guys figure it out later, because that's what takes all your guys' time. We'll mull on that, and then we'll come back to it. So mull on that, and then maybe Monday we could talk about it. But actually, yeah, this is going to be due next week. So yeah, so think about it, and then do that, and answer his questions. But so see what I'm saying? I want you guys. So right now we're using information systems to calculate our business formulas. So when you guys get out of business, your boss isn't going to say, go do this spreadsheet for me. Your boss is going to say, hey, go do this analysis. Should we do stuff in the cloud, or should we do it, or should we buy it? So it's kind of like that make-buy decision, and you're going to have to come up with ways on how to do this. So, you know, put together this analysis, Jennifer. Okay, because we said Jennifer couldn't do this. And what happened to Jennifer in chapter 1? She got booted to the curb. Okay, so these are some of the things that your employers are going to want to, you know, they're going to pay you nicely. They're going to expect you guys to do these sorts of things. Okay, so not just be handed no employer is going to give you a spreadsheet and say go do this creator assignment or whatever. They're going to say go figure this out for me. Like, how do I do it? I don't know. Go figure it out. Okay, so I want to train you guys on how to figure this out, how to think, and how to evolve this whole stuff. Okay? Make sense? Cool. All right. So, while we have Excel up and going, let's go do the addendum today, and maybe even start on grader 3. Well, at least try to do the addendum. So what I want everybody to do is to go into your guys' have control your machines again. So if you go into learning modules, you're going to go into Excel. Then we're going to do workshop 3. And let's start with the addendum versus the in-class one. So we're going to do in-class. Don't do this homework one. That's what you're going to do for your assignment. Do the workshop 3 class. So right-click this guy, then save link as, and then save it to your desktop. So as we go through things in class, what I want you guys thinking is, you know, how do I do this? Does this make sense? Instead of just going through the motions, because then you're in robot, I call that robot mode. Because in robot mode, you guys will get through it, and then you'll be like, it's kind of like driving to work or driving to school. Like, I mean, there's times where I'm like, you know, my head's floating, I'm driving, I'm singing between the lines, but I don't remember everything I was at the whole way, right? Yeah. So don't do that in this class. If we're doing something, think like, oh, this is why we're doing this. If not, let me know. Like, this doesn't make sense. Why do we do that? Okay. So let's open up that WS3 class. And we're gonna chum our way through this one. Okay, so let's see. And then go to the ice cream worksheets. Go to the ice cream worksheet. Okay, you got it, Tucker? You getting there? Yeah, got it? Good, awesome. Good, good. Getting there, Brian? Getting there, Brian, good. Kelly, everybody's there? Anybody not here? All right, so again, what you want to do is you want to get over to the ice cream worksheet. Ice cream worksheet. Is anybody not there yet? All right. So if you didn't do the simulation, this is going to probably seem very funky. That's why I always want people to warm up on the simulations and then come to class. So one of the things we can do is we can create named ranges. How would we create a named range? So here's what we want to do. Let me explain what we want to do here. We want to look up the flavor. We want to look up the flavor of ice cream based on the code and fill in the B column. So how do we do that? So these are like the 5 worst flavors, ice cream flavors. And I'm an ice cream lover, trust me. But I don't know if I would try garlic. Bacon I could do, bubble gum, rum raisin, cotton candy, but garlic ice cream, that would be tough. So what would flavor, so if A2 is code is 1, what would the flavor be right here? Cotton candy, right? Cotton candy. Okay. Cotton candy. What about the second one? Rum raisin. What about the next one?
Cotton candy.
Cotton candy again, right? Okay. So you see why we got cotton candy?
Yeah.
Morgan? Okay. Cotton candy.
Garlic.
Garlic. I don't know, guys. I'm getting tired. And then how big is this thing anyways? Oh my, look at, this doesn't stop, guys. Oh, I'm not doing this. Okay. We're working pretty hard. This class is all about us working smart and not hard. What are we essentially doing? We're looking up the code, and then based on that value, we're going into this table over here in the range what? D1 to E5, and then we're returning what's in column 2. Man, wouldn't it be cool if Excel could do this for us?
No, we can't.
Can't really? How?
Something so.
Even I did a simulation, I actually did this, perhaps in robot mode, driving the car. Okay? Does anybody remember that formula V lookup? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right? So when we do these lookups, V lookups, 2 things. 1, you have to make sure the column you're looking up is sequential in order, ascending. So like this is 1 to 5. You couldn't do like 1, 3, 4, 5, 2, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It has to be in ascending order. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll create a named range. Named range. Okay? So how can we create a named range for this table right here? What will we do? Highlight it, then what? Okay, we go into formulas, and then do what? We could hit define name right here. Okay, and then maybe we'll call this thing flavors. Okay, and notice, we'll talk more about this once we get into the Excel 3 in class portion. But look at this thing. You see those dollar signs? What does that mean? Does anybody know? It means it
Doesn't change.
Those don't change. Those don't change. And we don't want this to change because we're going to start talking about relative reference and absolute reference. So this is like the first chapter when rubber hits the road on Excel. This is like we're really doing Excel in this chapter. So we have this guy defined right here. So what we want to do is blow out what's in B2 to B5. So just delete that stuff. And then go into B2. Now I could be like the Pearson guy and sell blah, 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 type equals V lookup, BLOOCQK, parentheses, blah, 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 blah. Or we can do what? We can do VLOOKUP. So here's the main categories that you have right here. And what category do you think we're going to do VLOOKUP from? Okay, so we have recently used finance, logical, text, date and time, lookup and reference. So click on that, and if we go down in here, do we see anything? Holy cow, here's VLOOKUP. Look at this. Now instead of typing, we can just use this wizard. This is much, much, much easier and foolproof. Okay? So what value do we want to look up? So when we did this our manual way, what value did we look up? So if I want to get the flavor for B2, what's the first thing I did?
V2.
Looked for your one value.
Okay, so I looked for what? The first thing I did is look to the left, right?
Yeah.
Okay? The first thing I did is look up that value. And that value is in what cell?
A2.
A2. I could type A2 or I can click A2. Okay? Wow, that's pretty cool. And what's our table array? Didn't we just make that thing into a named range?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Okay, so what can we type? Flavor. So we just type FLAVOR. So it actually has to be if it's capitalized, this one is case sensitive. Flavor. Okay. Hit tab or flavors. That was flavors. So if I hit flavors, look at that. Look what pops up right there. Oh my gosh, all those values. Okay? All those values. Okay? When we look at that table of flavors, do we want to turn the value that's in column 1 or the value that's in column 2?
2.
What do you guys think? How many column 1? How many people column 2? So if we look at this table right here, from the D column and the E column, if D is column 1 and E is column 2, do we want to turn what's in column 1 or column 2?
Column 2.
Column 2, right? So column number, index number, you're going to put 2. And the second you do this, you're going to get a preview. And look what that says right there. What does it say?
Cotton candy.
Cotton candy. Well, that's pretty cool. Man, swell. So what happens then if we pull this down? So the big huge, so do you remember autofill? So what's autofill? How do we get to autofill?
The little box in the corner.
The little box in the corner, right? So if I come in here and if I get that little plus sign, now I'm in autofill mode. Okay? So on autofill, so I want everybody else up for a sec. Let me lock everybody down here. Right? So in autofill, if I go up and down, what would happen to A2? A2 would go to what? If I go down, A2 becomes,
Drum.
you know? Well, not the result, but what? So this A2 in this formula, A2 goes to what? The column stays the same. So if you're in a column and you autofill and you go up and down, the letter stays the same,
The numbers.
but the numbers will go up or down. So if I go up 1, it subtracts 1. If I go down 1, it adds 1. Okay? If I go left and right, the number stays the same, but the letter will go up 1 if I go right and down 1 if I go left. So based on that, if I went down 1 column, it's only the cell reference that does this for. So flavors is safe and 2 is safe. A2 would become what? So we said the letter stays the same, but what happens to the number if we go down?
A3.
It would go up, it would go down 1, and the next cell would go down 2. A3 would become A4, okay? Since I didn't go left and right, the A stays the same, okay? So watch this. We're getting ready to have a magical moment here. You know how we're manually doing everything? One way you can do it is you can drag down. The other way you can do it is watch this. Everybody get ready to say blammo on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, blammo. Damn, that was cool.
Literally just click it, you didn't drag it or anything.
I did. You can drag it or you can double click it. And like that, bam, blammo. Okay? That was 100. If we had 10,000, it would have did that. If we had 100,000, it would have did that. Could you imagine sitting there for 100,000? One, it would take all day. Two, you get bored. Three, it'd be non-routine, it'd be automated, just like we did. Okay?
And 5, you probably make a mistake.
5, you'd make a mistake. Okay? Wow, that was cool. All right, so you guys are going to do the same thing now. After I unlock you guys. All right, so the first thing that we did, we already created the name range. So if you have a formula already in there, and you're like, oh my gosh, let me get the wizard back instead of typing everything out manually again. Does anybody know how to do that? So from this formula, if you just click on Insert Function, that reopens the wizard back up. Okay? So if you have a function in there, if you hit the Insert Function, that reopens the wizard up again. Okay? So everybody go into the lookup and reference, and we'll do it all together here. Okay, so B2, we wanted to do lookup and B lookup. Okay, and what value are we going to look up? We want to look up the value that's in what cell? A2. A2. So is everybody following along? Okay, so we're looking up this value, A2. Okay, and then what's our table name? So we can click the cell or hit tab. Okay, what's the next thing we're going to do? What's our table name? Flavors, right? So flavors. Okay, and once we did that, it automatically populated over to the right our table for us. That's pretty cool. Okay, and then column index on that table, we wanted to return what was in column 1 on the left or column 2 on the right? 2. Guess what happens if we had 3 columns? You can say 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so if we put 2 in here, we preview and we get cotton candy. Okay, then we hit OK. And now just double click, get in the autofill mode and double click. Pretty sweet, isn't it?
A lot better than this.
A lot better than a simulate, right? Okay. So at least you guys are here in class. I feel for the online students. I try to tell them this. So Gislani will benefit from today. She's seeing this, but
Absolutely.
it's like yours, like the millennials. It's like, how many people know I send emails? Probably about 4 or 5 a week out. Anybody not getting my emails? Anybody not getting my emails? You be honest. If not, there's a lot of good information that comes out there. A lot of good tips and tricks and things. If I'm spamming you guys too much, I can dial it back. Let me know. If your work is done on time, you get many less emails too. Just so you know. All right. So that was step 1 and that was step 2. Okay. So let's conditionally format column B blue cells so that if they're blue, let's fill in, if it's cotton candy, let's fill in blue. If it's pink or if it's bubble gum, we'll fill in pink. So how can we do that? Anybody know?
Yeah.
Okay, in home, we have this thing called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting. So if we click on this, we can highlight cells and rules whose text contains cotton candy. You'll see it already kind of started filling in that into pink. But we said we didn't want this to be pink. We wanted this to fill in blue. So on this drop-down menu right here, we could click on that. We could say custom format, and then go into fill, and pick your favorite shade of blue over there. I don't care, anything. Click on OK. Oh, actually, grab all the cells. So grab B2 and then go all the way down, and then hit Shift and then click B100. We'll do all this at one time. Or the other way, if you did it the other way, don't fret. All you have to do is just do Format Painter and drag it down, and that works too, right? Okay. So it's a little paintbrush up in the,
Well,
up like the,
I did the blue thing and then I just clicked OK and now what do I do?
okay, then if you did that, then click on format, go to that cell, do format painter, then drag down from B3 to B100. Okay, but if not, don't worry about it. Just grab B2, to B100. So if you click B2, you can go all the way down to B100, hit shift and hit, so that everything's highlighted. And then hold it down and click B100, and you grab everything. We have to click like B2, then go all the way down.
After I
Highlight
highlight?
B2, highlight B2, and then go all the way down, hold shift, and then click B100. And now you see all those guys are selected at the same time.
Okay.
All right, so where's everybody at? So everybody listen, everybody watch for a sec, because I feel like they were like in 30 different routes right here. Okay, so to do this, conditional formatting, highlight cells that contain cotton candy, and we're going to have this drop down, custom formats, fill, and pick a shade of blue. Okay? And click on OK.
Okay.
Okay? Without moving or doing anything, let's do conditional formatting again. We're going to highlight cells that contains bubble gum, and just leave it at the default, light red fill with dark red text. Okay, so now you can rapidly just go through there and pictorially see, all right, here's the ones that are cotton candy, here's the ones that are bubble gum.
Okay. Only my B2 cell is blue.
Okay,
I'm going home.
okay, so let me see.
And then
So one way you can do this is do format painter with this. Okay, and then all those are cotton candy set format paints
Okay.
with everything selected. So, bubble gum.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, how's everybody doing? Yes, Steve. And then just click any blue. Yep, that's fine. So contains oh, because you're hitting the space after. So once you put that space, there you go. Okay, so now that's to make sure you don't put any extra spaces in. Okay. Then this contains bubble gum. Okay. All right, cool. All right, how's everybody doing? Everybody has that? All right. So let's do an if statement. Honestly, the thought of garlic ice cream repulses me. So how can we insert a column in here? So we can right-click C, and we can do what? Insert, and let's write garlic, question mark. Okay? So a lot of times, this is very logical, and if you just read the syntax, it'll tell you the formula to use. So if the cell says garlic, say yuck. If not, say good. If only there was a formula out there that could do that for us. Anybody have any ideas? If formula. Okay? So, we come over here to formulas. Let's see, is it going to be under financial? No. Logical, maybe. Tax, don't know. I can't figure it out. What do? I panic? No. I just go into insert function. I type if. I type if and I go go, and then blammo, there it is at the top. I just went into insert function. And you click on OK. Once you do this, the wizard shows up. The wizard shows up. So what do we want to have for our test right now? Our test is we want to say, hey, does this cell B2 equal garlic? Since we want to look for a word, we have to put those words in double quotes. Anything that's text has to go in double quotes. Okay? So B2 equals.
How did the table thing pop up that you're typing into?
Because after I did if, I said okay, and it pops up. So you guys see it? Anybody not here? Everybody's here? Okay. So if you click logical, then just hit the, you know it's under logical. Yeah. You got it? Does anybody not have this? All right. So if it's garlic, and look, this says false. Okay, so it's already previewing it. But if it's true, we want to say yuck. Okay, and technically you have to put this in double quotes, but if not, it'll put it in there for you. But in the logical test, you actually have to manually put in the double quotes. So see what it said, yuck, and value of false is good. And now if we click on OK, so we say good, and guess what we can do now?
Double.
Double click and autofill, okay? So you can see anything that has garlic now says yuck. So pretty cool stuff, right? All right, so that's going to be all the time you have today. So insert this, so save this and insert this in. But here's what I'd love for everybody to do between now and next Wednesday's class. If you can, please try to watch the videos on this addendum. And then please try to watch the video on the grader assignment. So, gosh, we didn't get through all this. All right, we'll quit recording here now.